Maine Knows How. Brought to you by A&G Shooting, Modern Woodmen of America, Mainly Handrails, Pine Grove Programs, Digital Spirit Media, and J.W. Parks Golf Course. Maine Knows How.
Welcome to the April edition of Maine Knows How. I'm Tim Corbett, and I'm surrounded here by Bob Howe and Wyatt Howe. It's April.
It is.
And things are changing. And what's going on at the lodge?
Well, right now we're picking up coyote shacks, making sure those areas are clean, where we've been baiting for 6 months. And we're trying to get rid of all the bones and stuff out of there and get these shacks pulled back to the lodge and straightened out.
How many days baiting did you have this year?
I personally worked 34 days baiting on bait sites. Yeah. So that's a lot of work. Going to get the bait, bringing it out, snowmobiling it in, setting it all up, going check cameras and lights and make sure they got heat. It's time consuming to do all that. But we took a lot of guys this year and they did very well. And so it was a successful season for the program.
Excellent.
Yep.
You're also finishing up your hare season.
We are, and that was a challenge because of the snow we have.
I'm glad to not be on snowshoes anymore. Because
Why?
after a couple months of running around about
So
6 to 12 miles a day on snowshoes, I'm ready to get off.
So you can see the transitioning happening. Bob is sending all of the mileage to Wyatt.
Yeah, he's a good lunch chef, and I'm running around the woods now. So we had a good season. It was good. It was a little bit different than other seasons in the past because of how warm it got so quickly. We had to transition to covers that were easier to get to and closer to like paved roads or something that was solid because we lost so much snow and we had so much rain that a lot of our woods roads were all muddy and we didn't want to mess up those roads for the landowners, and so we had to find specific covers.
Now, for those of you who have never experienced the mud season, it's our 5th season of the year.
It is.
And it is a huge transition time, and just the lawn in your front yard with grass, you will smush down into it. So these roads, these dirt roads that release the frost so much earlier because we plow them and the snow doesn't insulate, those roads get so much worse.
They do.
Contractors going down camp roads have a hard time this time of year, and I can't imagine with the access that you had going on to have to go over those roads.
Yeah, it was a little difficult, but we managed. Now we're getting ready to go fishing.
All right.
So I'll be happy to get in a boat.
Which means you're pulling the ice traps.
Yeah, the ice traps are all put away, cleaned up, and stored for the summer.
The shacks are out.
Yeah, and I've just been finishing up tying some more tandem streamers to troll.
All right, trolling season is a coming.
Yeah.
And there's also a bird we're going to be going after, Bob.
It is. It is. We're always after something.
Yeah, those turkeys.
These turkeys are. We take quite a few turkey hunters, veteran turkey hunters, and people for the program. And we have a lot of volunteers, but we never have enough. Sometimes they've never been to the lodge. We have people in southern Maine taking them, and we'll just buy them breakfast and we'll buy them lunch, and the people down there take them. So it's a lot of hunts are going on all over the place, but they're not necessarily right here.
And turkey hunting has exploded.
It has.
In Maine.
Yep.
Very successful reintroduction of turkey here, and it's a great day event and pretty nice weather generally.
Generally it is, and it extended the hunting season a lot. And I get people that come from all over the country to come here to hunt woods turkeys. Completely different than hunting a farm turkey.
Farm turkey.
Yeah, these guys want to hunt woods turkeys. Yep. And they live in all these woods. So it's different. It's really different. They don't call like you do on a farm. You do things a little different. But
the farm turkey are used to having the corn still on the cob and laying in the field, and they're fat, dumb, and happy. They're big birds.
Yep.
But they're not as sly
Exactly.
as the woods turkey.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
for sure. We also have another annual passage into spring with the Sportsman's show coming up.
Yep. I'm excited for that show. We're going with the program, and I'm bringing my rod company as well. So
And the name of your rod company?
Square Tail Rods.
Square Tail Rods.
Mm-hmm.
Sportsman's Alliance of Maine sponsors that show every year. It's something that gets a huge turnout. It's a lot of fun. We'll have David Trahan from the Sportsman's Alliance of Maine to speak about this in a few minutes. But the show, Sportsman's show, will be April 19th through 21st. So mark it on your calendar. Bob and Wyatt will be there. There's hundreds of other exhibitors. It's a great time. And we look forward to that annual rite of passage into summer and late spring. With that, we'll be back with our guest in a few minutes, and we'll see you soon.
Maine Knows How is brought to you by Modern Woodmen of America, a member-owned fraternal financial services organization since 1883. J.W. Parks Golf Course in Pittsfield, a 9-hole facility with a full-service pro shop and driving range offering daily fee golf and membership opportunities.
Welcome back to Maine Knows How. Today we have a special guest. He's from the Sportsman Alliance of Maine. He's their executive director, and his name is David Trahan. Welcome, David.
Well, good morning to you, my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wyatt. I fished with you before.
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah.
So you guys know each other.
Yes.
How far back do you guys go?
Maybe probably 15 years,
Yeah.
10, 15 years.
And you've been part of Sportsman's Alliance of Maine too, Bob.
I have,
haven't
and
you?
I
Yes.
enjoyed it. It's been a really educational for me as a sportsman to see how hard these guys fight for your rights to go hunting and fishing and use the state. It's just incredible. You don't know how much that small amount of money that you paid to be in this club
Right.
and to be on this organization goes. These guys fight every day for your rights, and this fight happens every day.
Yep.
Yep.
And with that in mind, David, please give us an introduction. Give
Sure.
our viewers here an idea of what it is. The different. What always amazes me is the wide scope of things. Everything from education to
Identify us as a powerful political entity, and we are. There's no doubt about that. I think the press recognizes that quite often, and so does the legislature, the governor, and members of Congress call us for help on different bills. And just yesterday, I was in the governor's office trying to straighten out some gun bills that people were trying to hijack. And you're right on, Bob. People just have no idea. We might be enjoying our day and things are calm, and I get this call, hey, you got to get over here to the State House. They're up to mischief. And so, yeah, we're constantly doing that. But we do other things too. We have an education center we've developed over the last 7 or 8 years, and it's pretty impressive. I think it's probably one of the best kept secrets out there, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute.
what is the focus of that center? Is it young people? Is it older
Any
hunters? Or?
Sure. I think it started as, well, I'll tell a little bit about it first. We had a 34-acre parcel donated. It was within about a driver and a 9-iron from our main building, which was coincidental. It's not very far away. And that 34 acres has become now 130 acres. We've been adding to it. We have built 2 fishing ponds, a shooting range with an enclosed structure to shoot from, about 3 miles of trails, buildings. We restored a barn on it for a classroom. We just built a 32 by 32 pole barn, which we'll pour the cement floor in here in the next couple of weeks. We serve any youth groups, veterans groups. I'll give you an example of some of what we've done. We've had over 100 scouts camping in the fields overnight for 2 nights. We've had Bureau of Veterans Services counselors came in, and many of them had never held a firearm or fired it. We gave them a day-long program. They went to the range and shot for the first time. We've had high-functioning autistic students coming in, fishing in the ponds, and just the veterans home locally uses it. I will tell you this little story because for me it just solidified my commitment to the education center and what we do. I was happening passing the entrance and I saw a man walking out holding another man's hand carrying a bucket. So I stopped and went down, and the man was crying. He was in tears. He was at the end of his life. He was blind, and he hadn't fished in years. And one of the folks from the hospital took him over. He had 2 trout in a bucket. And when I stopped, the gentleman introduced him, and it was just a moving moment for me.
Yeah.
As little things like, I say little things, that was huge for this man. He hadn't fished in years. And so at that point is when I really said, you know what, we got to make this thing happen. We have never charged to use the facility, and we've literally had thousands of kids go through there.
It really underscores the cultural heritage of hunting and fishing in the state of Maine. And I can say this, I grew up in New Jersey where, hunters were the oddballs. If you saw a gun, it was an odd thing. And then, 30 plus years ago, moved to Maine. And this is, back then kids had shot bird guns in the back of their pickup trucks going to high school. But still that heritage is alive and well in Maine, and it's being handed down. And Sportsmen's Alliance, through this program, really are introducing the next generation.
What's even more exciting than just the fact that we have this facility is about a year ago, I negotiated with Ron Fournier at Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to do a formal lease on the property. For those that are listening and can remember, just a couple of years ago, Inland Fisheries and Wildlife stopped doing the mandatory in-person hunter safety classes. Well, part of that, we didn't support doing that. There's a certain experience that comes with hands-on.
Was that COVID related, or?
They used COVID, but I don't think it was COVID related. It's something going on around the country.
Right.
It was seen as a barrier to new people coming in. It was as much an annoyance, but really it helped save a lot of lives over the years. This hunter safety class, but anyway, they transitioned, and part of that deal was that Inland Fisheries and Wildlife would develop more mentoring programs. These are new programs, whether it is how to clean your AR or trapping or whatever. The department started developing these new programs, and so we said, why not use our education center right in Augusta? It's a perfect location. Our relationship with them started about 12 years ago when I took over as SAM director. I opened up our building to the Recreational Safety Division for free. They've held hundreds of combination classes between the two. Thousands of young people and new sportsmen and women coming into it have used our facility. That's a pretty much unknown fact that we've been doing that. Now, why this is important is they last year started a pilot with us on the property, up to 40 events with young people and new sportsmen. That went really well. And we're now talking about expanding that lease to our conference center and educational space. I think some of your listeners will be quite surprised when I say that the most participation right now is with trapping classes.
Really?
Our conference center houses about 75 or 80. You'll go down there, there'll be 50, 60 people in there, and you'll have 30 to 40 people learning how to trap.
All generations?
All generations, all across the spectrum. And Ron Fournier, what they do is they'll do the class, the in classroom work, and then they go over onto the land, and we've created channels with culverts and whatnot. We have the ponds. They'll literally set traps and go in and show you how to do it. So they complement each other, and I think that's the value. Trapping's just an example. We have all sorts of classes.
So if a viewer here wants to learn more about the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine, I assume you have a website?
Yeah, you can go to sportsmansalliancemaine.org. We have the ISLA too, which is the political division, as a separate. We also have 2 Facebook pages, and I do post quite a bit about the youth programs on our
But
Facebook.
I mean, as far as these events that you're talking about, the different training and learning to trap, that would all be.
Yeah, you can contact us, or you can contact Inland Fisheries and Wildlife directly and sign up for classes. I get notices on my phone. I just got, I think, 5 of them yesterday. that they had 5 more events planned
Yeah,
in
Grass,
combination
yeah, nice.
with our education center next door.
It's always been very interesting to me. Each fall we have the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine annual banquet, and if it's an election year, it is always crazy to me how you have every candidate
Yeah.
walking around at that banquet, and you have Republican candidate for governor and the Democrat candidate for governor right there at different tables.
Yeah.
And it's a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
But it is a real testament to the cultural aspect of hunting and fishing and how important it is to Mainers. And the politicians recognize that, and they recognize the significance of the group that you represent. And you do have a political lobbying aspect to the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine.
Yeah. 2025 is our 50th anniversary, and we've been around for a long time, and we've influenced most of the conservation policy, firearm policy in the state, or we've flat out introduced the Article 1, Section 16 of our Constitution guarantees your Second Amendment rights. That was a SAM bill. Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund, Land for Maine's Future program, we spearheaded the creation. Most of the political work in the state, SAM has had their influence over, and we still do. And I think we're stronger now than we've ever been. The reason people come is because our grades or endorsements, we used to do endorsements, now we do grades, is valuable to candidates.
Right.
Very valuable. And so they want to be there and they want to participate. But the banquet that you talked about is a family-oriented banquet. We give out sometimes 30 and 40 lifetime fishing licenses to kids. It's a great event. People can kind of let their guard down a little bit.
Yeah.
We keep the politics out of it. But it doesn't change the fact that we are very political. We just know that you can be political and still talk to each other, no matter what party you are.
Right.
Pretty impressive for the people that donated. The money that came from this organization to do this was donated.
Yeah.
That belongs to a lot of people, and how proud they must be to say, look what they did with what we donated.
Yeah.
It wasn't just wasted.
You nailed it, Bob. I'm glad you brought that up, because I have this philosophy, and I kind of get scolded a little bit by the board once in a while for getting my hands dirty right next to the volunteers. But when we were building that education center, it was volunteers throughout the organization who stepped up and said, we want to help. I would say 95% of it was done by volunteers.
Right.
There were bigger donations from, say, LL Bean, Poland Spring, but it was mostly small donations. We have a $1 million facility that was built from scratch.
From nothing.
From nothing.
Just donations.
Yeah, I helped
so it's
pull.
Pretty impressive.
Well, an example of that, a little comical, but when the gentleman was building one of our ponds, his dump truck slid down into the pond, and we had to get it out of there, and I operated the excavator while he operated the bulldozer, and his hired man hauled the truck out.
Right.
My point is that a group like ours is grassroots. It's true grassroots. We start from people, and then we get our political power from people. And when we call for volunteers to build a $1 million facility, they show up because it comes from here, right in the heart. I can remember the first time that I went fishing. I can remember the first time I was in a boat with my dad. I can remember the first time I saw a deer. And if you can catch these young people and give them a positive experience, whether it's in our fishing pond or whether it's on our trails or the hunt opportunities we offer there, they'll remember that for a lifetime. And if you make it a positive experience, you not only have them, you have their family. When they grow up, they're going to teach their kids. I'll share this story with you because it's important to you and your listeners to hear this. I was a former legislator for 12 years. I testified in front of the Education Committee about firearm safety and how it's important to get people early in school and teach them what a firearm is and how to be safe around it. So I'm in front of the Education Committee, and Senator Millett is chairing it, and I'm talking about bringing like an Eddie Eagle style basic safety education in schools. And the question she asks me is, Why shouldn't we assume that you're trying to indoctrinate kids into the gun culture? I'll never forget it. People like you and I, the people that are listening, we care as much about the safety of children around guns as anyone does. But it was a realization then that you're never going to get education in the schools to promote hunting and fishing and safe firearm handling. So you're going to have to do it yourself. So that's what's been driving me to stand next to these volunteers and the people funding this effort. Hey, this is important stuff. And we need to reach everyone, not the wealthy kids, not the poor kids. Don't even look at it that way. Anyone that wants to come. We don't care. We think that this is valuable. This information is good for all kids, all adults. And so that has been the approach. And I said, we're going to build a school. And the board, along the way, we've had our struggles sometimes because Sam is seen as, political. But I think working with our board, working with the membership, we have not matured our efforts yet. We have great things coming. Our education center is going to take off. We have people that are not only putting in $50 donations to support us, but we have people coming to us saying, we want to put you in our will. When we go, we'd like to see a piece of our estate support what you're doing. And that is empowering.
I mean, it's really with your educational effort, it's the difference between fear and respect for a firearm. I think a lot of people who have not been exposed to the culture of proper firearm safety, they're afraid.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to teach people how to use these firearms because fear often means bad.
Correct.
But when you train them and you educate them and you show them what right looks like, it turns into a respect for the firearm and a respect for the behavior that is involved with them.
Yeah. There's also an element that needs to be in place for I think the general public to have comfort. Since we started this effort, we've partnered with the Bureau of Veteran Services, the University of Maine 4-H program, schools, Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, the National Rifle Association. We've been able to bring people together that maybe sometimes don't see eye to eye on issues. Right. And in order to pull off something as big as this, you have to have this atmosphere where people believe in what you're doing and trust that when they send their kids to this school that they're going to be taken care of. It's taken us a while to get to this place, but again, I see it taking off. What I'd like to see happen someday is that the school has a future. They're funded so that when people like Bob and I are no longer around, it will continue. And that this theme of an education without any economic barriers, no barriers to who can come. It's just the theme is education is good. Right. And that's what builds a future for our community. Without young people having that experience, and they'll choose for themselves whether they want to do it again and make it part of their life. Right now, there's barriers to kids getting that experience. And that's what I found. And that's why I have a personal passion for this, is that we got to break down that barrier.
Right. It's the other thing I like about Sam is the rights and responsibility aspect that, you fight for the rights of the sportsman, but at the same time, it's very balanced with the responsibility aspect of it. Deeply involved in conservation efforts. It's not about just hunting, it's hunting with conservation in mind. And some people may think that that's an oxymoron, but they go hand in glove.
Oh, absolutely. What was kind of exciting for me personally is the Speaker of the House has one of the most comprehensive mental health bills in decades, along with the governor. They both have these packages right now where they're going to try to bring mental health services to rural areas that don't have any. The Speaker called me and said, would you come in and help me with my bill?
Wow.
She pulled in the Republican leader, Billy Bob Falkingham, and Representative Arata, and we sat and went through her bill. And remember, she's from the Portland area, has been seen as a gun control activist, And I sat there and working with these folks made 5 changes to that bill that made it better.
Nice. Thanks for
They're
doing
leaning on Sam, not just
Yeah.
for the conservation, the gun rights, the hunting and fishing stuff. It's for major policies that they know our organization can contribute on the policy and have the credibility to get it through the legislature.
And they understand the political influence with the grading of candidates that you do,
Yeah. There's
That is-
300,000 sportsmen in this state.
which is about a
women.
third of the state.
And it's
Or
a
a
very
quarter.
powerful voting bloc.
Mhm.
And that's the realization when you're the
Right.
Speaker of the House or the Governor,
Mhm.
is that what we say matters. And I say we. A lot of people will say to me, Dave, nice job. There is no Dave without you.
Right.
I mean, I'm the face of it, but my ego's not that big. I know that I'm speaking for you.
Right.
And so everything I say in the newspaper and on TV is on your behalf as a community. And I take that very seriously.
So we have a big event coming up in April, in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And what can you tell us about
The State of Maine Sportsman show. So we have Easter, and a show at Easter is, you just don't get the participation. So it's a little later this year. It's in mid to late April, April 19th, 20th, and 21st. The State of Maine Sportsman show has 2 partners. It's Sam and the Maine Sportsman. And together we put that show on, and it is maxed out now. We have just come so far in filling that place. Every square inch of that place, including most areas outside, are full of vendors and new activities. We have all kinds of new, especially youth-oriented. We have an archery room with 2 archery ranges all set up that will be available this year. That's new. We have all sorts of other new things. We try to keep the show fresh. So if you
seminars,
the entire 3 days will be seminars, but we have new things. We try to rotate some new things in every year. I used to hate it when people would say, well, I've been to the show once, I know what's going to be there this year. No, you don't. No, we keep it fresh, and we've got all sorts of new vendors.
You know what's really nice, Dave, is we have a lot of veteran programs there now,
Yes.
and every one of them is
Yes.
helping people.
Yeah.
Every single one. Years ago when I was doing this, there was nobody.
Yeah.
And then one started, another one started, another one started. Now they all come,
Yeah.
and they all go there,
Yeah.
and every one of them has a good mission.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody out there thinking about helping these, please do.
Yeah.
Because they're all the same. They're all helping people for nothing.
Yeah.
So it's God blessed.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put a plug in for you. I've known you for a while, Bob, and your program and what you folks do. It's the work of angels, and I got to tell you that my booth, I can look down and I can see Pine Grove programs. If you weren't there, it wouldn't be the same show for me anymore. The work that you do is angels' work, and I'm going to put a plug in for you because I get to see what it looks like behind the scenes, and you guys are always doing good things. And that's true of the other veteran groups
All
too.
of them.
But I know you
Yeah.
personally, Bob, and you're a good man, and this
Well.
is a great program. And anytime I can give you a plug, I will.
Well, thank you. But there's a lot of good programs, and we are so glad. There's some younger guys that started doing this, and they get the younger guys, and that is really great. And then there's older guys, they go over here. And then there's women operations, and they go. That is so good because they weren't there before. So it really sort of makes me feel
Yeah,
good.
there is a
that
veteran theme
45 years ago when we started doing this,
Yeah.
that there was no such thing.
We even talked about creating a veterans wing of the show
Yeah.
because of the stepped up interest in bringing veterans. Some of them, we have a long vendor list, a waiting list, and we couldn't bring them in. Maybe it's time that we create a veteran wing of
Something to
the,
think
of the
about.
state.
Yeah.
I have to get that through my partner, but I don't think it'll be hard
Yeah.
just because the theme is so many veterans groups want to come to that event.
Yeah, they're all doing great things, though.
Yeah.
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 Well,
I don't know one of them that doesn't do great stuff to people.
That's right. That's right.
Well, David, we thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us and discuss Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine. It does great work in this state. It really
thank you.
is undergirding that cultural heritage that we have, and again, balanced rights and responsibilities that come with hunting in Maine. You guys have just done a great job, and we thank you for your time and
Well,
your
thank you.
efforts.
Well, thank you. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to come on. Anytime that you folks are involved, I feel like a family member, and I'm
Yeah.
always welcome. So anytime, and thank you.
Great. Well, thank
We
you,
hope
David.
you come back again.
Yep. We'll have you back soon, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Maine Knows How is brought to you by Pine Grove Programs, supporting veterans, first responders, and law enforcement by providing free outdoor opportunities to those who serve, have served, and their families. And by Mainly Handrails, serving New England with custom metal fabrication since 2005. Catering to both residential and commercial, no job is too big or too small. Proud to be a Maine business employing Maine people, offering quality metal products made in the USA. A&G Shooting, a brick-and-mortar gun shop offering firearms training and 100% customer satisfaction. And by Digital Spirit Media, providing over 30 years of technical expertise in media production and event production services.
So, Wyatt, do you have a tip of the day for us?
I do. So we're over here. We're getting ready to do some trolling, and we troll a lot of Tandem streamers, which are they're a specifically made hook where it has two smaller hooks with a piece of leader material in between, and that allows you to have more chance of a hookup. And when you're putting them together, it's very specific. Like there are good. When you're putting them together, it's very specific. There are old. How am I gonna say this? I get my words straight here.
Want help?
No, I don't need your help.
Do you want us to go to the story of the day and you can gather your thoughts?
No.
All right, I get it from every direction.
Deserve it too. Okay.
So I kind of liked it when you just said, I make a tandem streamer. I'm making tandem streamers. And then I jump in and say, okay, I don't know what that is.
Okay, we can do that.
And we'll play it back and forth.
Tip of the day. You got a tip for us? Just leave
Okay.
it.
I thought it was a how-to.
You got a how-to? Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Wyatt.
Yeah.
You want
Okay.
to sit here? I'll do that.
How-to. So Wyatt, do you have a how-to for us today?
Yeah, so the how-to of the day is all about trolling tandem streamers.
All right. You've already lost me. What is a tandem streamer?
Well, traditionally, when they were first coming out with streamers specifically made for trolling, they used these long shank hooks where they might be like that large, right?
So a couple inches, 4 or 5 inches.
Yeah, because they wanted a large fly to imitate the bait fish, but those hook shanks
So
were...
these are large flies. We're not talking
are.
about the ones as big as your pinky
No, we're
fingernail.
talking about large flies imitating a large bait fish.
Okay.
And traditionally, those long shank hooks, well, you only had a hook in the back. Okay, so what they started doing is they took two smaller hooks, and they attached them together with a piece of leader material, and that allowed you to have a hook in the front and a hook in the back, and it would flex a little bit when a fish hit it. So that increased your hookups. Well, when I tie them, I try to go back to the actual original patterns. And if you look at all of them, a lot of them that have a red threaded underbody have a white underbelly underneath the red thread. And what that does is when that red thread gets wet, it darkens several shades. So having that white underbelly of thread that you can't even see, it keeps that red thread a lot brighter. Another thing that I like to do is I use color protectant, which comes from the rod building industry, where you just cover it, and that keeps the thread the same shade as you want it.
So you want that brightness to stay
Yes.
bright and not get subdued by getting wet.
Exactly. If you don't protect those colors, they get subdued, and they're not as vibrant as you want them. You need that red to be an attractor. And if you're not protecting it, then it's not acting as you want it to act.
So what kind of fish are you going after with these?
Mainly brook trout and salmon and
Right.
those kind of fish. Lake trout, anything that you're trolling early for.
Now, ice is out.
hmm
Spring fishing is here, and it predominantly is trolling.
Not necessarily. You can do some really fun stuff. This is one of the only times, or early season is one of the only times you can catch lake trout on a fly rod because they're cruising around the shallows looking for bait fish, and the water is still cold enough for you to be able to catch them. They'll still be that high in the water column.
Otherwise, you're limited to the streams and rivers.
Right. You can catch them still. You can catch lake trout later season, but you're down deep on the bottom.
I see.
And it's a lot more difficult to catch them.
Yeah.
But right now, when you're trolling these streamers, in addition to those color protecting aspects, I also like to give the whole thing a coat of like head cement along that thread, and that keeps, because salmon and these brook trout, they have some sort of teeth, and if you have just a tinsel or that thread, after the first couple fish, it'll start getting all frayed and it might come apart. And so all of that work you put in to making those flies goes down the drain after the third fish. And see, what people don't realize is when you're trolling these, you have to be careful on making sure they stay good. After the first fish, a lot of people grab the fly, they throw the fly back in, and they send it back out. But what they don't think about is that fish it ripped out some feathers. It ruffled those all up, and now it's not going to ride correctly in the water. And so you have to really take time to make sure that that fly is riding correctly, and it looks just as good as when you first put it in.
So when you're tying this fly, how do you make sure it's riding right when you throw it into the water?
Well, when it's in the water, it should ride straight up.
I see.
A lot of these flies, they have feathers, and you'll tie them so they're flat, kind of, and they'll have a flat profile. And you want it to be vertical, because if it's tilted off the side, the fish that's coming up is not going to see the whole fly, and it's not going to ride right. And especially sometimes you'll have them and they'll start to spin, and that's really not good.
That's not good.
It's not only is it not going to catch a fish, but it's also going to spin up your whole line.
Right.
And then you're going to have problems with how much line twist you have. So those are just a couple of my tips. Just make sure that your flies are tied correctly, and really go back in the old fly patterns. Like another one is the gray ghost, a classic Maine pattern. And if you look at the original fly patterns, the gray ghost head, where the cheek is and where the eye is, that's all shellacked. And what that does is it builds up that head and it keeps it more solid, and it makes like a cone of turbulence behind it, where the rest of the trailing fly flutters more. It's not as solid. Where you pull a normal one in, most people don't know about that, or it takes too much time. And that way there's no turbulence, so there isn't as much flutter in the rest of the flies.
Well, that's great. It's a great tip. Inspect your equipment, make sure it's in serviceable condition, and after each catch, too, because I generally don't do that. I'll just unhook. I'm thankful that I got it out of its mouth, and I'll throw the hook in. We thank you for that, Wyatt. That's great. And Bob, we're moving over to you as you take a sip of water. And do you have a story?
I probably do.
Yeah, you've been around long enough to have a few.
Let me think what I can tell you guys that's entertaining. Well, it's fishing season, and as a guide, people hire you to take them fishing. Well, I only have a guide's patch. I don't have a God's patch. And some of the people that you take, they think that they paid you, so that means that they're going to catch a whole bunch of fish. Well, that's not so. Sometimes, no matter what you do, you can't catch fish. And that's happened to me numbers of times, It's just the way it is. So you have to try really hard. And sometimes we'll have folks that will come from another country. You have a language barrier. I said, and we're going to fly fish, and they never fly fished, and they hired you for 4 hours. Well, it takes a while to teach them the mechanics of fly fishing. And then put them in the river wading, which they never waded before.
So you get customers who have never flied fish before.
Mostly never fly. It's a celebration when you get one that can cast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a challenge, and then they show up in August.
So they're just jumping right into the deep end of the pool,
Absolutely.
right?
When they call or when I go fishing, I tell them there's no fish. It's too hot. The water's too warm. They're gone. I know, but I want to catch some. I said, they're gone. I try to discourage them because it's tough.
Right.
And I said, you should come to a fly fishing class first and learn how to cast. No, but I only have 4 hours. I'm here on my honeymoon. So we take them, and it's challenging. And what turned into a 4-hour trip is now a 6-hour trip,
Right.
because you're really struggling to catch a fish for this guy, and it takes time to teach them how to fish a nymph in October, or they can't even see a floating fly on the water because the water's moving. And
so
it's broken water.
You're in a stream or a river, too.
We're waiting.
You're waiting.
Right. This time that I was thinking about, and this gentleman, he couldn't barely speak English. And we fished, and his wife caught a fish right off. Nice brook trout, and she was so happy, and she was picking on him. And
Brookies are nice.
yeah, and he wasn't upset, but he wanted to catch a fish too, because she was after him. Come on, George, you got to be able to catch him. He's getting after him, and I did. You can. How come you can't? So anyway, we fished, and we fished, and we fished, and 4-hour trip has gone by. Now it's 5 hours, and it's, as a guide, you try to do everything you can to be successful. And then eventually, this guy hooked a fish, and this fish was jumping and running and just tearing that pool up. And I'm saying, let that line go. And he's holding the line tight, and that line doubled right up, and it's just pounding. And that fish is flipping in the air. And he fought this fish, and he finally gets it in. The poor fish wasn't even hooked in the mouth, it was hooked in the fin.
He snagged it?
He snagged it in the petro fin. Oh my God! And I have a picture of it, and we'll show it to you. And I tried to get him to turn. I said, "You got to turn that fish back. This is October, and these fish are here breeding, and you can't keep that fish." Oh my God! You wouldn't even believe it. It was like I shot him. It's all deflated. But he took some pictures, and we turned the fish back. But this guiding industry and this guiding job can be really challenging sometimes. Right. And it's for all the fishermen would know exactly what I'm talking about. When the fish are biting, you're a superstar. When they're not, it's not so well.
And we've talked about it before with just the temperature of the water is that the big killer. When everything warms up, there's nothing biting except for bass.
Right. Well, it changes all the time. Our seasons don't stay the same.
Right.
It's continuously, all the time changing. So you got to be able to change with the times.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's my little story for you guys.
Well, Bob, thanks for that. We really appreciate everybody tuning in. And again, if you like what you're seeing, please go to your favorite podcast provider and check us out. You can also go to YouTube. And again, your questions are really coveted. Send them to maineknowshow@gmail.com. Best question will get a hat sent from us. And with that, we'll sign off for this month, and thank you very much for joining us.
Maine Knows How. Brought to you by A&G Shooting, Modern Woodmen of America, Mainly Handrails, Pine Grove Programs, and J.W. Parks Golf Course. Digital Spirit Media. Maine Knows How.